everyone. I'm Marina Kaganovich. I'm part of the Office of the CISO at Google Cloud. We're a strategic advisory team whose mission is to support our customers' secure digital transformation. A bit about myself. I've spent most of my career in financial services, where I held legal and compliance roles at Thomson Reuters, Goldman Sachs, and most recently at BNP Paribas, where I led the digital compliance team. As part of the Google Cloud team here, I continue to work primarily with financial services customers, articulating Google Cloud's posture on security, regulatory compliance, privacy, and risk management topics, and providing guidance and best practices on structuring governance and oversight programs to our customers on how to securely deploy workloads, including our AI product suite on Google Cloud. Today, we'll be focusing on AI's dynamic landscape, which at times presents us as a double-edged sword. While AI possesses immense potential to revolutionize security, it also calls for robust safeguards. And during this session, we'll discuss both sides of this critical question, exploring strategies for securing AI and leveraging its capabilities to fortify our defenses. And by providing insights into securing AI and harnessing its potential for enhanced security, we strive to empower you to navigate the future of AI responsibly and effectively. Joining me for this session are my esteemed colleagues, Jake Liefer and David Homovich. So David, let's start with you. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your role at Google Cloud and what you're seeing in the AI space?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So hello, everyone. My name is David Homovich. I work within the Office of the CISO here at Google Cloud. Similar to Marina, I specifically work with our financial services customers, but we also do have teams across multiple industry verticals here at Google Cloud as well. I started my career in Washington, D.C. I supported the Department of Homeland Security in critical infrastructure protection before moving to the Department of Defense, where I was a cybersecurity liaison to NATO, working specifically on developing a set of security control baselines to ensure that NATO nations could share information securely. Right before joining Google, though, I was at JP Morgan Chase. I was a risk and compliance officer in cybersecurity and resiliency. So happy to be here today. To your question, what am I seeing in the AI space? So, from an AI perspective, what I'm hearing from Google Cloud customers, and specifically the FSI customers, is typically concerns around, the typical things: security, privacy, the rapidly evolving legal and the regulatory landscape, governance, and of course, privacy and compliance. But I do think that Google takes a bold yet responsible approach to AI, and there are specific ways that Google Cloud addresses a lot of these concerns. So let me just quickly run through those with you. I think from a security perspective, so Vertex AI, which is our end-to-end machine learning platform, it does sit on Google Cloud's infrastructure, which was established with security by design, default, and deployment in mind. And that includes deploying a set of defense in-depth controls throughout our infrastructure, including things like encryption of data in use or of data in transit. From a privacy perspective, so we make explicit contractual commitments regarding how customer data is going to be used and safeguarded. And we abide by a set of trust principles, which articulate things like you own your own data, right? We don't use customer data in any way that's used to train our AI models. And we don't use any of the AI prompt injection data either. So there is a set of privacy principles that we have in place. From a compliance perspective, we maintain documentation and attestations around compliance with existing regulations. A big one that people always ask about is, of course, GDPR. But we also monitor development of new industry standards and regulations as well to make sure that we're ahead of the game. From a governance perspective, all of our AI products undergo review by multiple teams prior to launch, including security teams, privacy teams, and responsible AI teams as well. And I know that's a really important, point for a lot of our FSI customers. And then finally, just from a responsible AI perspective, we have published our responsible AI principles. These principles guide our product development and help us assess every AI application before it launches. And they prompt questions for us like, will it be socially beneficial? Or how might this product lead to unintended harm? So those are kind of the main things right now that I'm hearing from our Google Cloud customers, including our FSI customers as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think, security and privacy are absolutely top of mind with responsible AI playing a major role in the discussion truly on a global scale. And it's something that, that we're seeing both businesses, enterprises, consumers, and even, regulators. It's a topic that they really grapple with
Yeah.
because certainly AI is quite significant in its implications. And one of the ways that I've actually seen folks address these topics is through the use of frameworks. So I think, David, staying with you for the moment, curious to get your thoughts on this. Is this resonating, or is this what you're seeing with customers?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So last year, we at Google Cloud, we released our secure AI framework, SAFE, SAIF, not SAFE. But SAFE is really meant to kind of be a conceptual framework for securing AI systems. It's inspired by a set of security best practices, like reviewing, testing, and controlling the supply chain that Google applies to software development, while incorporating our own understanding, I think, of some major security megatrends that we're seeing out there, as well as risks specific to AI systems. So a framework like SAFE, to your point, I think, is essential for making sure that responsible actors are safeguarding the technology that supports AI advancements so that when AI models are implemented, then they're going to be secure by default. SAFE was also designed to help mitigate risks specific to AI systems, such as model stealing, poisoning of model training data, injecting malicious inputs through prompt injections, and then even being able to extract confidential information in training data. So it's important to note there are 6 elements to the SAFE framework. They're not intended to be applied in chronological order, but rather kind of as separate levers that you're able to tune as needed to achieve kind of the desired result of using AI in a secure and a responsible manner. We have a lot of thought leadership out there around SAFE that can be found on our website. You can also just Google SAFE framework and you'll be able to read it. But just touching on a couple of those concepts, they include things like expand strong security foundations to the AI ecosystem, or contextualizing AI system risk and surrounding business processes, or extending detection and response to bring AI into an organization's threat universe. So they are, really things that we've applied in other situations that now definitely apply to AI as well. But to your point, I think having a framework out there is critical for organizations that are thinking about security and AI.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, 100%. Frameworks, I think, are incredibly useful in this space just to make sure that there's a consistent approach and that all of the risks that need to be considered are considered in a way that enables AI to be implemented and deployed in a scalable and repeatable manner. So certainly, really happy to hear that's out there now for our customers. Wanting to switch gears a little bit and turn to you, Jake. Would you mind taking a few minutes to introduce yourself? Tell us about your role with Mandiant Consulting here at Google Cloud, and also what you're hearing from CISOs and other executives that you interact with on AI.
Sure. My name is Jake Liefer. I've been helping organizations improve their cybersecurity capabilities through consulting for the past 15 years. And my passion certainly lies in helping these organizations be able to transform and be resilient against cybersecurity threats as we've continued to see these threats evolve. And we'll talk a little bit more in the AI space where we're seeing that. I've worked throughout my career with numerous financial institutions. And today I find myself deeply involved in addressing the cybersecurity concerns related to artificial intelligence and machine learning. My work mainly focuses now on empowering these organizations to use tools like large language models responsibly and securely. Additionally, I've been working to help secure DevSecOps practices and vendor processes to ensure a smooth and safe enterprise-wide implementation of AI/ML technologies. And as the threat landscape adapts, so must our cybersecurity measures. So I've been actively engaged in building proof of concepts and testing mitigation strategies to protect organizations against what we're seeing in the threat landscape in our intelligence against these emerging AI/ML powered threats such as deepfakes. So I hope to share my experience and insights with you as we explore these challenges and opportunities.
Fantastic. Let's do it. I think that's such an impressive background and such a depth and breadth to the types of engagements that you've had on this topic. So maybe we can get into some practical examples. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of novel AI-enabled threats and what you're seeing from customers in the industry. And what can we do about them? What can we do to safeguard ourselves against these?
Yeah, top concern as we think about this has certainly been the use of AI-powered synthetic voices, right? Where this has kind of been a discussion for the past few years, but attackers have gained access to the ability to trivially do this, to be able to clone others' voices. We've seen this from everything from ranging to political instances to more of individuals targeted at organizations. So these synthetic voices that are capable of mimicking human speech can also be used to bypass security controls that could potentially rely on voice authentication. Additionally, we could see them being utilized to coerce employees to take actions based on the presumption that the individual that they're speaking to is who they say they are, right? As we think about this, there's a similar theme that has emerged as we think about phishing attacks, right? Where there's a false sense of who the person is, who the individual is, business email compromises. So this is a continuation of that theme. So with this, right, as we think of the business email compromises, we see this potentially being used in conjunction with synthetic voices, where that's used to manipulate employees into making wire transfers or divulging sensitive information. And by adding a synthetic voice, the calls can sound like the impersonated individual, and attackers can increase the sense of urgency and the perceived legitimacy of these fraudulent requests. We also think about how these might be utilized, these synthetic voices, with other attacks such as ransomware and extortion. So synthetic voices during these critical times that an organization is responding to a significant incident, the threat actor might use synthetic voices to make threatening calls to victims of the ransomware attacks. They might impersonate law enforcement or government officials to create more pressure and fear that they're trying to entice that payment of ransom. In some cases, these might also be used to make false or damaging claims, or even cloning executive voices, adding to confusion and mistrust during this critical cybersecurity incident. So certainly we see the use of synthetic voices to bypass security controls to be a significant threat. And this is, undermining maybe the trust that's placed in traditional authentication methods here. There are certainly mitigation techniques as we work through this with our customers. So the mitigation techniques require a multi-layered approach that combines the technical, procedural, and awareness-raising measures, just as we have with other security capabilities, where we look to the technical controls, but also user awareness and training. So from a technical control perspective, how do we begin that process to distinguish between a live human voice and a synthetic voice? Potentially in a conversation for a wire transfer, this could involve having a challenge response system where the user is asked to perform specific actions or have some certain knowledge, saying a particular word or phrase that has already been predefined that would be difficult for the attacker to know, or would be difficult for the attacker to create that in a real-time way. Additionally, as we always talk about, right, with having multi-factor authentication in place, that we shouldn't solely rely upon voice authentication as a single factor for that verification, but rather that we think of this as one of the factors, and that we require those additional factors such as a password or something that they know that then reduces that risk of a single point of failure. As we think about user awareness and training, we want to train employees about these synthetic attacks, teach them to be suspicious of unsolicited calls requesting sensitive information or actions, even if the voice sounds familiar. We want to be able to have a reporting process so that we can establish clear reporting channels for employees to escalate suspicious calls or voice interactions. So this would allow for a timely investigation and response. And thirdly, we want to make sure that we can simulate these synthetic voice attacks. So how can we begin to test employee awareness, as we have done with phishing attacks, and be able to show and educate our employees about what are the potential emerging threats as we see this continuing to evolve here?
I would just jump in. I've seen some of those synthetic attack examples. They are extremely realistic. So it's great to hear about like some of the controls that we have in place to kind of prevent those things from happening.
Completely agree. And they're only going to become, I think, more realistic as the technology continues to evolve. So actually, let's stay on that thread for a little bit, because it's a fascinating topic. And Jake, maybe you can expand a little bit on other means. So besides the procedural and the operational aspects, sort of a little bit deeper into the technical means of how we can safeguard against cyber threats. So can you talk to us a little bit about maybe what AI professionals can do and how they can use AI in that defense mode mechanism as it relates to obviously threat detection, mitigation, and incident response?
Yeah, certainly we see AI as a tool and a capability. Being in cybersecurity for so many years, we have seen the need to be able to scale as attacks have scaled. So how can we respond to that in a way and being able to scale exponentially, and have been excited to see how AI can be utilized here to combat security threats. We see this in three different manners for whenever we think about implementing AI at organizations. So that's to stop threats, to reduce toil, and to scale talent. So by stopping threats, we can use AI to analyze and detect potentially malicious scripts, be able to look through vast amounts of data that just we simply don't have the capability to do, and that we can generate intelligence alerts for active breaches in the environment. So this allows those incident responders to be able to action and prioritize and help to be able to respond quicker and faster. We see it as being capable in reducing toil. So how can we reduce the number of tools in our organization to secure the vast attack surface and ultimately empower our systems to secure themselves? If we can reduce the amount of toil that it takes for our security engineers to configure, to monitor, to go back and reconfigure, and doing those tasks over and over again by utilizing AI, we see this being capable at minimizing the toil it takes to manage these environments and to generate secure design capabilities and to have these controls in place. Thirdly, we see this as being capable at scaling talent. At Google, we believe that we need to first acknowledge that AI will usher in a new era of security expertise that will impact how practitioners do security. So this is not just the ability for our security teams, as we have always talked about. Cybersecurity does not just take place in the security team, but rather everyone needs to be involved in security. So how can we utilize these AI tools that we can help developers be able to be aware of cybersecurity capabilities? How can they utilize the AI machine learning tools to understand about security controls and best practices and expand that throughout our organization? So we see a world where we're able to train up, new employees, those that don't have a background in cybersecurity, and are paired with AI expertise to free themselves from this repetition and burnout and accomplish tasks that really seem quite impossible for us today. And so at Google, we continue to iterate on our models. You may have heard in the news about Gemini, which is our latest series of large language models. And the Gemini model stands out for a few key characteristics. One of those being the multimodal capabilities. So it's not just limited to text input and output, can process different forms of data, including images, video, and audio. So this would allow for a more comprehensive interaction. So for example, you could provide Gemini data and have it the ability to generate a chart from this data. We also see, as we think about reasoning, right, that Gemini has additional reasoning capabilities. It's been evaluated against benchmarks and has shown to outperform human experts. This means that Gemini can handle complex questions They require factual knowledge and the ability to apply logic and reasoning. Then as we think of cybersecurity capabilities for coding, for example, oftentimes our teams have to write everything from scripts such as Python to sim alerts and logic. And Gemini excels at these programming tasks. It can understand and explain code written in different programming languages. It can generate high quality code given instructions or descriptions. And this certainly makes it a valuable tool for a coding related scenario. So these capabilities will help security practitioners to be able to meet the increased volume of attacks and sophistication of attacks by summarizing data, creating code, and identifying threats.
Fantastic. Absolutely. I think there's been such an increase in both the volume and the sophistication as you've talked about of the types of cyber attacks in recent months and recent years, that there's really no reason for us to think that they'll abate anytime soon. So if we can make use of AI to support cybersecurity professionals and reduce that manual effort involved and really support them by providing actionable insights to help them more quickly identify threats and take steps to mitigate their impact, certainly so much the better. And I think, maybe switching gears just a bit, we've certainly seen the evolution of both AI attack paths as well as AI defense capabilities and various use cases that you've talked us through. And we're also seeing, I think, a commensurate change in the regulatory landscape as well, with AI regulation really evolving at an incredibly rapid pace on a global scale. So maybe turning back to you, David, can you speak to us about some of the trends that you're seeing from that perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Jake got the fun question of talking about like the attacks, and I get regulatory, but no, it's a very important topic. So I do think there is, a lot of growing regulatory and sector-specific body interest in the intersection of things like AI and privacy, for example, out there. And I don't expect that we are going to see complete alignment on a lot of these regulatory requirements at the global and regional level, as well as across, I think, separate industry verticals where regulators are going to start thinking about this differently. And, all of us have some experience with financial services in that area as well. I think there are different approaches to regulation underway as well, some that may be more risk-based, some that are more prescriptive in nature. And I think there may be some regulators that look to altering existing regulations or others who might publish, completely new regulations. I also think that, like, given the global nature of cyber and AI, there is a challenge out there right now with some of the definitions, standards, and taxonomies that are being used. I think those will continue to evolve over the next year or so. So I guess the one constant thing about regulation is the fact that it is constantly changing. I do want to mention one thing, which is that Google is a founding sponsor of ISO 42001. That's their family of AI standards. And we're also recognized as a global leader in AI governance best practices as well. And I think I had mentioned a little earlier that we do have, teams that are continuing to monitor, what's happening out there from a regulatory and industry standards perspective.
Fantastic. So thank you so much. I think we're unfortunately coming up on our time today. So, we've had the opportunity to talk about our approach to security, governance, privacy, risk management, and compliance. We also talked about some of the practical aspects of the threats that we're seeing and the ways that we can mitigate them through the use of AI. Looking to wrap on this topic, wondering if I can pass to you both for some final remarks. Maybe David, starting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually wanted to pick up on one of the things that Jake had mentioned earlier, which is around like how cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. And we talk about that from interns all the way up to the boardroom. So last year, we actually launched the Google Cloud Board of Directors campaign to assist board members in thinking about, their role in topics like cybersecurity and AI. And as part of that campaign, we launched our Board of Directors Hub, where we publish a lot of thought leadership, including our recurring perspectives on security for the board. So in the 3 editions, I think that we published last year, all of them had dedicated sections to AI. So I encourage, the audience here today to visit the Hub, to check it out. You can actually find the Hub just by searching board campaign at cloud.google.com, or simply by searching Google Cloud Board of Directors campaign on Google's website as well.
And I'm a very biased observer, but but I'll second that. It's a collection of really helpful resources that we found to be very well received by financial services and customers in other industries as well. So thank you for that. Jake, maybe turning to you for closing statements and remarks as well.
Yeah, certainly. As we think about this, there's so much opportunity in this space as we think of AI and machine learning and particularly large language models. Likewise, as we think about the threat vectors, we want to be considerate of what are attackers doing out there? How does that consider and shape our defenses? So I think this is certainly a place that will continue the discussion. I'm certainly, proud to be a part of Mandiant and Google and thinking through this process of both reflecting on and looking at the threat actor landscape, how that informs our capabilities to secure our cybersecurity products, as well as just general Google Cloud solutions. So would encourage everyone to continue to elaborate and think through the considerations of cybersecurity capabilities as we inform our teams as well as build our cyber defenses.
Excellent, thank you. Well, thank you both so much for joining today's discussion, and both to CSA for hosting us. We hope that you found it informative.
Thank you.
Thanks.